be interested in trying out one vanilla labs on this one?
Sure, yeah. Thank you.
This is the Bittboy Pocket Go. Well, it's not. This is a box for the Bittboy Pocket Go. And inside, there's a little bag that houses the Bittboy Pocket Go. Isn't it a lovely little bag? It's got a picture of the Bittboy Pocket Go on the front. I've said Bittboy Pocket Go a lot now. At least you know what it is. In the rest of the box, you get a tiny little bag. And the bag contains things. You've got a charging cable. Basic functionality, like the world's smallest instruction manual that you don't really need. It tells you all about volume and screen brightness and how to stick a micro SD card in. It comes with an 8GB micro SD card, by the way, which is already loaded with games and emulators. There's your micro USB cable for charging. I now have 50 billion of these, and an alternate set of buttons, which is super nice. In the European, there's a micro SD reader. In the European colour scheme, I'm not going to be going with these simply because I kind of like the uniformity of the Famicom colours that it's got going on, and these are going to go back in the bag because just looking at them, I feel like I'm about to lose them basically immediately. Let's just pack all that nicely away over there. So this is a bag. It's got a Bittboy Pocket Go in it. This will run you about, I think, £30, $35. There's my face. Hi, me. How you doing? You handsome bastard. So the build quality on this is really, really nice. I assume it's 3D printed and then assembled. The buttons are satisfying. You've got your connectors on top. It's even got a TV out, but it's using that kind of old school 3.5mm AV out rather than a mini HDMI. I'm just going to very slowly peel off this protective film. Please contain yourselves. That's the good shit. Oh yeah, that was real good. So the build quality is amazing. It's genuinely a very premium product. Feels really light but solid, which is what you want from a handheld. I'm not going to tell you about the specs because honestly the specs don't really matter. It's what it can do with those specs, which is predominantly based on the software involved. So I think we're going to cover that. Here's the menu. It's based on GP Menu 2X or something like that. And as you can see, it's got a significant number of emulators, little built-in apps and stuff, and a lot of homebrew pre-installed on the 8GB SD card. We've now moved to Starbucks because it's a portable device, so I thought I'd review it portably. I'm literally doing this before my day job. The clip that you saw at the start was the barista offering me a free sample of a latte while I was trying to review a handheld. So first of all is Game Boy Color coverage with Link's Awakening DX. Now the Game Boy Color is a very easy system to emulate, and as you would expect, you can see in the corner there the frame counter. It's solid 60 frames per second, no problems there at all. This runs better than it would run the new remake because it can't run the remake. Moving on to Game Boy Advance, this one's always tricky. This is Ninja 5.0, a game I've been playing a lot lately. This actually runs, this doesn't have a frame counter, but I can confirm it runs full speed. This is, by the way, just a little side note, a game that everybody should play. It's incredibly expensive at the moment, but you know, there are ways and means of acquiring it. You get to kind of Ninja Gaiden your way around, being a ninja cop, doing ninja things. This move I'm doing here, on something that can't emulate GBA very well, will actually cause a massive amount of frame lag, but you get none of that lag on this system with this particular emulator installed, which is very nice. It's a little bit awkward for me to play on the viewpoint. You'll see like my index fingers placed on the R button in a very unnatural way. When you're actually holding it and playing normally, it fits really nicely in the hand. And as I said, the build quality is genuinely fantastic. That screen, that IPS screen, is also really, really lovely, very bright, vibrant. You don't get any glare, which is nice. When the screen turns black, you might see my reflection. Sorry that you're going to see so much of my face. It's just something you're going to have to deal with. Anyway, that's stage 1, the Ninja 5.0. What I also tested it with was the intro to Final Fantasy VI, which sounds like a strange thing to test it with, but I do this a lot with different devices, and the intro to Final Fantasy VI is notoriously a place of massive lag, and if it's going to start frame skipping, it will be there. Same with Tales of Fantasia, which has voice acting in the intro, and if the voice acting skips, then generally, you know, it's going to be bad emulation, but there's no skippage in the intro to Tales of Fantasia, which is very, very nice. Never played past the intro, because I only ever just use the intro to test things that are playing Game Boy Advance games. Onto the NES. Now, the NES is tricky. It's very weird, this, because it can emulate the Game Boy Advance almost perfectly. And then on the NES, you get this problem. No matter what settings you, well, set, you get a lot of, not so much sprite flickering, but just straight up sprite disappearance, which is not a new power-up for Mega Man. It's just an odd thing. And then we get on to Batman. Imagine releasing a device in 2019 that plays an NES game at 50 frames per second, to the point that the audio gets all laggy, everything gets all laggy, and it's just horrendous. This is actually kind of unacceptable, and I think it deserves being called out. How dare you release a device that can't do NES games properly in 2019? Now, like I said, I'm not going to mention the specs because so much of it is software. It is the emulators that you use, and I have no doubt that in time, you know, the NES emulator will be updated. It's in active development. It's been actively developed on the Dingu Niti forums. If you pick this up, but for now, NES is bizarrely horrible. Which, considering what will come on to everything else that this can do, it's just strange and incredibly disappointing that it can't do NES properly, because the NES is one of my favourite consoles. And ugh. Anyway, we then tried SNES. Frame count for this is in the bottom right. This is Super Mario Bros. 3 on Super Mario All-Stars. And you'll notice there immediately there's a bit of a graphical issue. Either that or everything's just got a bit darker. There's a massive black void behind the level. It's actually just the encroaching madness. It's finally reaching the end of Mario's life, and this is Mario just kind of flying off into the darkness that envelops us all, which is, you know, uplifting, probably. But I mean, it runs okay. It's just it's running with some graphical issues, quite a lot of graphical issues, really, which you just don't want in a Super Nintendo emulator. There are so many things that can do Super Nintendo properly. And then obviously the best game on the SNES, Link to the Past. Here we are leaving our uncle's house despite being told not to, and there's that void again. Yeah, the void is apparently encapsulating all SNES games. Turns out that transparency is automatically turned off for some reason, so you turn it back on and you'll notice the frame count has now immediately dropped below 20. We're still kind of okay with the smoothness of playing it, like it's playable. This is because auto frame skip is on, so what it's now doing is drawing multiple frames at once to try and maintain a consistent frame rate. So then I turned frame skip off just to see, you know, what it would do if it tried to run at 60 frames per second. And oh dear God, that's not gone well at all, has it? You'll see the frame count now out of 60 is now running at 60, but it's running every frame basically, and that's the speed that it does that at. I then tried Kirby's Dream Land 3, and you're not seeing things. That does say 5 frames per second, which is basically a PowerPoint slideshow at that point. So Super Nintendo, not great. Onto a slightly more optimistic system. This is the Sega Master System. This is Sonic 1, the only game that I really thought to play on the Sega Master System, and that runs just fine. This doesn't have a frame count either, but that's, I would say, a solid 60, especially in the very demanding special stage. And then onto the Sega Mega Drive. This is amazing. This is a phenomenal full speed, in fact. Full speed, full screen, 3:2 aspect ratio. Everything's perfect. Everything's flawless. Same with Gunstar Heroes, and you can see how much is going on the screen here, and it still manages to maintain a constant 60 frames per second. So if you're looking for portable Mega Drive emulation at full speed, then this is definitely the device you want. it also has built-in MAME, and it had Final Fight on the card. Now, the fact that they put Final Fight on the card that comes with it would lead me to believe they want you to play Final Fight, but then you do, and this is what you get, and this is not impressive. This is not good. This isn't even playable. This isn't approaching playable. But then you move to Neo Geo, and the Neo Geo emulation is impeccable. That's full screen, full speed, no audio skipping, no limitations, no having to turn off layers of sprites or anything like that. So it's just bizarre, really, that it can do so poorly on what I think is CPS2, is the Capcom arcade system for Final Fight. But then you put Neo Geo on and that's fine. It also has DOSBox. It came with Commander Keen pre-configured, which runs flawlessly, which is great. Nothing else in there. I will at some point play around with that, see if I can get something else running in there. Like Duke Nukem 3D or something, just to see what that's like. But Commander Keen's on there. And in the freeware homebrew section, of course, it runs Doom. Everything runs Doom. I've got calculators that run Doom. That's not even an exaggeration, I actually do. This video, if you watch it a certain way, can probably run Doom. It's also got Streets of Rage Remake installed, but holy shit, do I not recommend you play that. The frame rate for that drops to as if you were trying to play a Super Nintendo game. Imagine that. And it's unplayable. An unplayable mess, really. Which is weird, because it's pre-installed. So, a bit of a mixed bag. Game Boy Advance and such is great. Neo Geo is great. Mega Drive's amazing. NES and SNES, not so much. But overall, it's an easy recommendation. It's the build quality, like I said, is exemplary. And it's in active development, and it's very cheap. So, pick it up. I highly recommend that you do.